Okay, there. Okay. For some reason, I accidentally started recording to the cloud, which is not what I want. It's easier for me if I just record to my computer and then upload it, following like being recorded to my computer. But as Daniel helpfully mentioned earlier, today we're going to be talking about the kidneys. They're kind of these like bean-sized organs, or I should say bean-shaped. They're a little bit they're a little bigger than beans. But if you guys
Bean,
have ever heard of kidney beans, or if you guys have just seen a bean in general,
bean,
then the kidneys look like beans, and not jelly beans, like actual like black beans or
beans.
pinto beans or any kind of like real bean. They kind of look like kidneys. The kidneys here, let me stand up so it's easier for you guys to envision where your kidneys are. So my rib cage kind of ends around here. So this is like the bottom of my rib. And you can see also in this picture that the kidneys are kind of situated right at the bottom of the rib cage. So my kidneys will be around here. And I'm sure that was a very helpful representation. But if you guys look at, yeah, the arrow that Anthony drew here, your kidneys kind of sit just so that they're protected by your rib cage. And yeah. Okay. Any questions on just like where the kidneys are in the body? Because that should be pretty simple. That's just like I say that, you guys nod, and you guys like learn that they're there. Okay, cool. Um, as you
Wait,
guys
are
know,
they
I
below?
oh yes,
Are
Daniel.
they like are they like below your stomach?
They are slightly above your stomach, I believe, but they're like kind of on the same level. It's just that they're spaced differently, horizontally as opposed to vertically. So it's not like they're being stacked up on top of each other. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, great, lovely. Um, as you guys know, I love to talk about function and structure and then give you a little synopsis on some of the public health issues that we deal with when we talk about specific organs. And so, as always, we will start off with the function, right? This is a very graphical, I'm sorry, not graphical, a very artistic representation of the kidneys. But if you guys look at them, they do kind of look like beans, right? If you guys have ever, I'm sure you guys have eaten beans before. Beans are delicious and also a good source of protein. But they do very much look like beans. That's why there are beans called kidney beans. So yeah, this is a cool fun fact. A couple of the functions of kidneys. There appears to be something in the chat. Okay, yeah, there's a Wikipedia article in the chat now. The kidneys are, to start off, the kidneys, in my opinion, are a slightly overlooked organ in the body, right? We think about the heart a lot, we think about the brain a lot, which I will certainly talk about the brain. And we think about the stomach, we think about the intestines, but a lot of the time we don't really think that much about the kidney. It just kind of does its job. And up until high school, I never really thought of the kidney as a major organ. But oh, that's not what I wanted to do. But the kidneys are actually really important, and they have a lot of important functions in the body, which I will now proceed to talk about. But okay, wait, there's something in the chat. Oh, I've never had beans before. Ah, interesting. I definitely recommend beans. They're pretty tasty.
Bean.
Yeah, like black beans. If you guys ever go to like Chipotle, you can just get like black beans, or you can get like pinto beans. Beans are good for you. Beans are very, very, very good for you.
What's Chipotle?
Chipotle is a fast food style kind of like Mexican grill. They do bowls like kava. Okay, point is they're like a restaurant, or there's some place where you can get good tasty food. And they serve beans, and their beans are quite good. But anyways, let's go back to the kidneys before we go down the Chipotle tangent. The number one
Beans.
function of kidneys is to maintain water balance in the body, right? We talked about this kind of dynamic of your body really needing water to survive, right? And we all know this. When we go and look for life forms, we always look for water on other planets. And so the kidneys do a really good job of maintaining water balance. And they do this through filtering the blood, right? And in the process of filtering the blood, they produce urine. So we kind of see this pretty hand in hand job that the kidneys have, where number one, they have to maintain water balance, but to actually maintain the water balance, they filter the blood. So that's how they actually maintain the water balance. Another important thing is that they expel metabolic waste, which is also part of their job of filtering the blood. So as the kidneys filter the bloodstream, they number one, they maintain water balance, but number two, they also expel metabolic waste. So they clean the bloodstream of any sort of waste that is in your body. And this can be waste produced by your cells, your other organs, for example. If you guys ever if you guys are ever sore, do you guys know that sore feeling after you work out, run, or you lift some weights, and your muscles are sore?
I've never worked out before.
Okay. But do you guys know that feeling of being sore?
No,
No?
I mean,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
okay. As long as like someone in here knows the idea of being sore after a workout, then you also have felt what is essentially lactic acid buildup. So after, okay, oh, I'm not sure what this thing in the chat is, but after after you work out, after you use your muscle cells, they produce lactic acid. And so your bloodstream picks up this lactic acid. Lactic acid is also what makes you feel sore, by the way. But your body picks up this lactic acid, brings it to the kidneys, and the kidneys filter out of the bloodstream. So that's how muscle recovery works. That's how your body becomes less sore as you recover. And the kidneys play a big role in that. The last kind of job that the kidneys have is to release hormones and control blood pressure, which kind of makes sense, right? The kidneys are in charge of filtering the blood. And so if you have too much blood pressure, there's too much blood coming through, then the kidneys can't really do their job properly. There's just so much volume of blood that the kidneys can't filter it all efficiently. Whereas if there's too little blood, you have low blood pressure, then there's so little blood that the kidneys are not performing to their full function, right? If you only have 50% of like the maximum amount of blood that can flow into the kidneys, then the kidneys at their maximum can only filter 50% of what it could filter if your blood was at a normal blood pressure. So it makes sense that the kidneys will want to control how much blood comes into them. And so that's one of their jobs. They help maintain the blood pressure. Any questions on the function, anybody? Okay. Doesn't seem like we have any questions, which is great. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to jump in later on in the presentation. And let me get a drink of water. Okay, very nice. Daniel, I think you're unmuted and there's like a phone ringing in the background of your house. So just
Oh yeah, that's my brother. Yeah.
okay. Thank you for muting. I appreciate that. Let's talk about the structure of the kidney. Okay, so as you guys know, I always emphasize that to study these organs, we always try to break them down, right? One of my favorite examples is the heart. We break the heart down into 4 chambers. We break the intestine, the small intestine down into 3 sections, the duodenum, the jejunum, the ileum, and we break the large intestine into 4 sections as well. And so one of the main components of the kidneys are individual filtering units, right? We talked about how the kidney is really in charge of filtering the bloodstream, and it really does a good job at it because of the fact that the kidney is made up of all of these tiny little filters that we can think of. Okay, guys, if there is not a question, let's not use the chat, okay? Lyndon, like that's unnecessary, so please don't do that. Whatever that is, I don't think that's helpful. Okay. But each of these little filtering units we call nephrons. And the nephron is like the basic filter of the kidney. It's really important. It's really important to remember what a nephron is, what it does, and actually how it filters, right? So when we talked about the heart, we talked about arteries and we talked about veins, right? So arteries bring blood in to they bring blood into organs, and veins take blood out, right? And so when we talk about the kidney, we don't really call it the artery. We call it the renal artery. And so renal refers to anything that is related to the kidney. When we say renal disease, we mean that there are kidney diseases. When we say that there is renal filtering, we are saying that the kidney is doing filtering, right? So we see these main two arteries and veins that are bringing blood into the kidney and are also taking blood out of the kidney, which is really important, right? We have to, in some way, visualize the fact that blood is coming in to be filtered, and after it has been filtered, it needs to leave the kidney to go to the rest of the body as, you know, like clean and filtered blood. And it does this through the nephron. So let's talk about what the nephron actually does, okay? So as I just mentioned, blood comes in through the renal artery and it kind of pools in this place called the glomerulus. And in the glomerulus, it basically splits up into a bunch of tiny little capillaries, right? And so all of these tiny capillaries come back through here. And after they're in what we call like this capillary bed, it's basically a bunch of capillaries that are like all bunched up together in one place. Remember how we talked about osmosis and diffusion? Basically, water and a bunch of other waste products and whatnot, or other stuff that the body needs to take up, are kind of passed into this yellow tubule right here. And you guys might be wondering, well, what happens to the other stuff? So these really big molecules like proteins and macromolecules are kind of continued on, and they don't get passed into the tubule. Instead, they stay in the renal vein, and then they go on to the rest of the body, which makes sense, right? We don't want our kidneys to filter out the protein. We need the protein for our bodies to, you know, like build all sorts of things in our bodies. Like we need proteins for like DNA construction. We need proteins for muscle recovery. And so it's really important that these proteins stay in our bloodstream. Let's actually follow the water or the path of water after it leaves the capillary bed. So water and a bunch of other very small waste products, they all end up in the tubule here. And we can see that the tubule kind of comes up and it runs to here. At some point, the water is uptaken by the body because we need the water as well, right? But that leaves a bunch of waste products. And those waste products actually form what is essentially, or what will essentially become the urine that goes to your bladder, and then you urinate the urine out. And so this is the beginning of that kind of urinary process. This is a very simple, nice diagram I found online. The cortex and the capsule are basically both like outer shells for the kidney, whereas the medulla refers to the interstitium, basically like the space inside of the artery where the nephrons are located. And we can see you have your renal artery come in and your renal vein that leaves, and you have this interesting little this little tube called your
Wait, I have
ureter.
a question.
Yes.
Where's the other thing?
The
Go
nephron.
back. Oh that the nephron.
Yeah.
Where's
So your nephrons are actually tiny. Like your kidneys are visible, but your nephrons are very, very small. So you would have millions of nephrons in this one kidney. So think about each of your nephrons being like this. You have your arteries and your veins running into your kidney, but like you have nephrons here and here and here and here and here and here and here. Your nephrons are everywhere inside of your kidney. Okay, like they're just like everywhere. You have millions of them inside of your kidney, which is why you can't really see them in this drawing. But I guarantee you there are millions of. I can't zoom out for some reason. Okay, apparently it won't let me zoom out. Here we go. There are millions of these guys, your nephrons, inside of each one of these kidneys. Is that okay, Daniel? That's why you can't see them, because there are so many of them.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes. But just imagine that they are each one of these nephrons are just chilling inside of the kidney, inside this interstitial space. But as I was talking about, the ureter is the kind of tube that brings all of the urine out of the kidney and to your bladder. So very interesting that this diagram actually labeled it, because it's been a very long time since I've seen not only like a kidney diagram, because I took biology my freshman year of high school, but I don't remember seeing like a ureter being labeled on the diagrams that I studied as a freshman. But this is cool. This is cool. And you can see how the ureter kind of encompasses the entire kidney here. So like all of the urinary waste that the kidney produces can focus into the ureter and then be excreted out into the bladder and then eventually out through the urinary tract. Okay, any questions on the structure, anybody? We are moving at a pretty brisk pace here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Was that a question, or was that just like an
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I don't have no questions no more.
Okay, great. Let me know if you do, Daniel. All right, let's talk about kidney diseases, or I should say kidney disease. I always like to, well, I don't like to, but I typically always talk about, like a cancer of the organ that we're talking about, which is very common. Well, I shouldn't say very common, but it makes sense because any of these organs, like your stomach, your intestines, your liver, they can all get cancer. They can all have cells that divide uncontrollably. And it's really scary. I mean, cancer is a terrible scourge. But to move away from cancer, especially on the kidneys, we're going to talk about kidney failure. And I decided to do this because there's so many intricacies to kidney failure that I felt it would be fitting that I just focus on kidney failure and not be like, there's also like kidney cancer and also kidney failure. And so let's talk about both of them. I just figured I would talk about just kidney failure. Number one, have any of you guys ever heard of a kidney transplant? Okay, maybe not. I mean, you guys are still young.
I've heard of it.
Okay, great. Actually, I'm getting thumbs up, sis. I'm getting multiple thumbs that are pointing up. And so and so kidney transplants are one of the like coolest surgical procedures that can help deal with severe kidney failure. But let's talk about some of the other things related to kidney failure before we get into like transplanting organs, right? So number one, some of the causes of kidney failure. You can have high blood pressure causing kidney failure, which also makes a lot of sense, right? We talked about how the kidneys maintain your blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure all of the time, then your kidneys are always trying to lower your blood pressure. And if they're always trying to do this, at some point they'll fail. They get tired and they lose the fight. And so high blood pressure can lead to kidney failure, among like a huge range of other health issues with high blood pressure. But also diabetes can be related to kidney failure, partially because the level of sugar in the body is not well regulated, the level of sugar in the bloodstream. And so the kidney kind of ends up like dealing with either a lot of sugar or too little sugar or just sugar issues in the bloodstream in general. So when the kidney goes to filter the blood, it just runs into, all sorts of problems with the amount of sugar that's in the bloodstream. To step away from kidney failure for a second, have you guys ever heard of kidney stones? Yeah, okay. Nice, Eva. But kidney stones suck. Kidney stones are preventable though. Drink a lot of water and you guys won't have kidney stones. But kidney stones are basically a mineral buildup inside of your kidneys that basically then forms a solid, and it's very painful. It's difficult for you to urinate out. It's just a whole pain. So my word of advice, as you just saw, is drink lots of water. Drink water. Okay. I think the kind of like connotation of kidney failure is pretty obvious, but what happens during kidney failure is that your kidneys like fail. They stop filtering the blood. Typically we define stage 5 kidney failure as when stage 5 being the worst type of kidney failure is when your kidneys only function to about 10 to 15% of their full capability, which is really low. I mean, 10 to 15% you can't survive. Which makes sense too, right? You need your bloodstream to be cleaned. You have this buildup of wastes in your bloodstream. And if your kidneys only filter out like 10 to 15% of the waste, then you're left with 85, 90% of the waste left in your bloodstream, which is dangerous, right? That's like that can't be good. Imagine like holding your poop in and never like excreting waste. That's essentially what is happening, right? There's waste buildup in the bloodstream.
Scary.
Yes, it is. It is. All of
It's
these
kind of
diseases.
gross. It's kind of gross though.
Yeah, it's also kind of gross too, right? Which is why kidney failure is also very scary. But we have ways that we can filter the bloodstream of people who are undergoing kidney failure. We call this dialysis. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of dialysis, but dialysis is very cool. So basically, people who have kidneys that have failed, right? They can't filter their own blood. And so after they realize this, they go to a hospital or a kidney filtration center and they get hooked up to a dialysis machine. This happens about 3 times a week, and they have to stay at the dialysis machine for about 4 hours every time they go. So if you guys calculate that, 3 days per week for 4 hours, you get about 12 hours a week spent on the dialysis machine, right? And so let's talk about what the dialysis machine actually does. So the dialysis machine draws the blood from your body, and it passes it through a filter. So all the acids and waste buildup in the blood is filtered out by the machine. Immediately, we see that the machine is basically just an artificial kidney. It removes blood from the body and it filters it. The kidney basically filters blood, but it's just in the body. So this is just like an artificial machine that does the job of the kidney, but outside of the body. And it does take a lot of time, but it is supposedly not painful, but you can get dizzy. But dialysis machines are really cool. So we call them like dialyzers, because like they dialyzer. That makes sense. Okay. This is a helpful diagram I found online of what a dialyzer actually does and how it functions, right? So we have the blood entering, it comes up and it passes into this chamber that has a membrane in the middle. And we talked about osmosis, we talked about diffusion. And so all the waste diffuses across the membrane and into something we call the dialysate. The dialysate is pretty pure. It takes up all of these wastes, and then it is discarded by the dialysis machine. Whereas all the blood that has just been filtered comes back around and into the body. So that is how a dialysis machine actually works. Okay, any questions, anybody? Okay, lovely. I'm going to stop my screen share here. Okay, wow, that was pretty good. A perfect 30 minutes presentation. I'm pretty proud of myself. That's that's pretty good timing of me. Okay, I'm also going to share my screen on Chrome so we can go ahead and get the GimKit rolling here.